Had been falling for hours, blurring the road ahead into a silver haze. Ethan Hayes gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles pale under the faint dashboard light. The world outside was nothing but black trees and glistening asphalt. His wipers squeaked in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. He glanced at the fuel gauge. Barely a quarter tank left. He should have stopped back in Hamilton, but he'd told himself he could push through to the next town. That was an hour ago. Through the curtain of rain, a neon sign flickered to life ahead. Half the bulbs burnt out, the rest buzzing faintly. Kingsford Hotel. Vacancy. It looked like the kind of place you stayed when you had no other choice. Ethan sighed, signaling out of habit, even though no other cars shared the road. The Kingsford Hotel sat back from the road, crouched behind a row of skeletal pines. Its windows were lit in that yellowed, artificial way that never quite felt warm. The building was 3 stories tall, maybe 30 rooms in total. A single light swung above the entrance, casting a slow-moving shadow across the front steps. Ethan parked beneath it. The rain eased to a drizzle, the air thick with that metallic smell storms leave behind. For a moment, he just sat there, listening to the quiet. The place didn't look busy. In fact, it didn't look alive. Inside, the air was warmer, though it smelled faintly of damp carpet and something older, like dust trapped for decades. The lobby was small. A sagging sofa sat beneath a faded painting of a lake. The reception desk was empty, a brass bell placed neatly at its center. Ethan rang it. From the back office, a woman appeared. Tall, thin, hair pulled into a tight bun, strands of silver catching the light. She wore a polite smile, but her eyes didn't move the way eyes should. "Evening," she said. "Traveling through?" "Car trouble," Ethan replied. "Just need a room for the night." She hesitated, barely, before nodding. "All we have is room 6A. Will that do?" "Sure." She slid an old-fashioned key across the counter, brass, heavy, with a worn leather fob stamped 6A. Her fingers lingered on it a second too long. The hallway was longer than it looked from the lobby. The carpet muffled his steps, though he could feel the wood beneath it bow with age. Every few feet, a sconce cast a pool of dim light onto the peeling wallpaper. The air was colder here, sharp, almost metallic against his skin. Room 6A was at the very end. The door was different from the others. Darker wood, brass number plate slightly crooked, paint peeling from its frame. As he slid the key into the lock, he noticed something odd. The handle was warm. The room was clean, too clean. Bed neatly made, a single chair by the window, a small desk with a notepad. No dust, no smell, just stillness. He showered, unpacked a few things, and lay down. Somewhere in the night, he woke. No idea why. The clock read 3:11 a.m. Then he heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps in the hallway. He waited for them to pass. They didn't. When he opened the door, the hallway was shorter. It ended in a blank wall where more rooms should have been. When Ethan woke, daylight was pushing through the blinds in narrow, pale slats. For a moment, he almost convinced himself the night had been nothing more than a vivid dream. The hallway, the footsteps, the wall. But when he stepped into the hall, bag slung over his shoulder, something was wrong. The corridor smelled faintly of bleach, like the aftermath of a mess hurriedly cleaned. The carpet was damp under his shoes, and though he knew the elevator should have been to his right, there was only a blank wall in its place. A chill moved through him. He turned left. The lobby should have been there. It wasn't. Instead, he was standing back in front of room 6A. He tried again. This time he turned the opposite direction. The hallway bent slightly, then sharply, then straightened. He counted 6 doors before the corridor ended in a small landing with a single door marked Exit. He grabbed the handle. Cold metal. He pushed and stepped into room 6A. The exact same room, only this time the bed was unmade. On the nightstand sat an old rotary phone. It hadn't been there before. He lifted the receiver. Static hissed softly in his ear, then a voice, his own voice. "Stay." The line went dead. He wasn't alone. At first he thought the hallway was empty, but as he walked, shadows flickered where no light source should have been. A woman stood at the far end, facing away from him. Pale skin, black dress. "Hello?" he called. She didn't move. When he blinked, she was gone. Back in front of room 6A, he reached for the knob. The brass plate now read 9B. He stared, looked away, looked back. Now it read 3C. He turned the key anyway and stepped into darkness. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the nightstand. It wasn't the same one from earlier. This one was painted white with chipped edges and stickers of cartoon astronauts peeling off. He knew this nightstand. It had been in his bedroom when he was 10 years old. He opened the top drawer. Inside, neatly folded, was his favorite blue t-shirt, the one his mother had buried with him when he slammed the drawer shut. An old tube television sat in the corner now, static whispering on the screen. The picture shifted. It showed him, not here, but in his real apartment, sleeping in his own bed. The footage fast-forwarded. At 3:11 a.m., his sleeping self sat up, turned toward the camera and whispered, "Come back." He ripped the blinds away from the window. It didn't show the outside world. It showed a hallway. Not the one outside his room, but another, lined with countless identical doors stretching into infinity. Some doors were open. In one, a man pounded on invisible walls, screaming silently. In another, a little girl stood in the dark, smiling. When Ethan touched the glass, it rippled under his fingers like water. On the desk was a leather-bound journal, cracked and brittle. The first page had a date from 1967. The entries were neat at first, describing check-ins, meals, small complaints about the staff. Then the handwriting began to shake. By the last pages, the words weren't even in English anymore, just jagged, frantic scratches. The final line was in clear block letters. "The door is not a door." He heard the knob turn. From inside the room, the door opened. Ethan walked in. Not him. Not exactly. This Ethan's skin was pale, eyes too dark, smile too wide. He carried Ethan's own bag over his shoulder. Neither of them moved for a long moment. Then the other Ethan whispered, "You're late." The other Ethan dropped something onto the bed. A key. It was larger than the hotel keys. Iron, old, the kind that belonged in castles or locked chests. Ethan picked it up. It was warm. The other Ethan stepped back toward the door, which was now different. A massive oak door with black iron hinges, something you'd see in a cathedral. "This is the last one," the other Ethan said. "Don't look back when you open it." He stepped through the oak door. No hotel hallway this time. A stone corridor stretched ahead, lined with hundreds of doors, each marked 6A. Some hung open, revealing rooms frozen mid-moment. A man holding a phone, a woman halfway to the window, a child crouched under a bed. They didn't move. Some of them looked like him. Halfway down the corridor, he found a wall where there shouldn't have been one. It pulsed, like it was breathing. When he pressed his ear against it, a voice whispered, "Choose your room." The wall split down the middle, revealing yet another door, this one painted red with no number. The key in his hand vibrated. Inside was no bed, no furniture, just hundreds of photographs of him. Some were from childhood birthdays, some from college, some from last week. In every single one, his eyes were looking directly into the camera, even in moments where he remembered looking away. A single chair stood in the center. The other Ethan was already sitting in it. "This is your room now," he said. Behind the chair was one final door. It wasn't wood. It was a mirror. He could see himself in it. Not as he was now, but older, thinner, wearing the hotel uniform. The older Ethan stepped forward inside the glass, lifted a hand and pressed it against the surface. Without thinking, Ethan did the same. The glass gave way. Room 6A is empty now. The bed is made. The key is gone. In the lobby, a new clerk sits behind the desk, a man with familiar eyes. When a guest asks for a room for the night, he smiles and says, "We have one available, room 6A."